This happened a couple of years ago, but I do think that it's a good place to start the conversation. This kid is about 11 years old at the time, and the white media is portraying it as if this was his idea. I doubt that. When stuff like this happens, I can practically smell the astroturf. Ain't no way in the world that this was grassroots. But whether the white media engineered this themselves, or whether this kid and his mother, because no father is mentioned, I guess we can safely assume there's probably not one in the picture. But this kid says that he and his mother talk about scary parts of what's going on in the world, and he told her how scared he was to be a boy with brown skin, so he came up with this in order to effect social change between the black community and the police. Folks, I know a lot of sharp 11-year-olds, but I sincerely doubt that this kid came up with this totally on his own. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of attention whoring going on, and we live in the age of Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, so there are kids who like to even set themselves on fire if they think they get some attention. But this case, nah, this is a little bit too convenient. But you know, regardless of whether or not this kid was put up to this crap, or whether or not he is so silly, or rather, let's just be honest, if this kid is plumb dumb, like a lot of children are, just so unthinking. I mean, you look at the pictures, the kid can't even tie his freaking shoelaces. And yet, apparently, he wants to do some reach-out effort to the police. You know, that is just the freaking lie of it all. That is a perverse joke of the lowest order. The white media's little puff pieces start off by saying people have a tendency to see black children as older than they really are and to perceive them as threats. If this piece then goes on to say that this silly kid decided that the solution to the problem was for him to get to know the police. As usual, the white media takes white people's racist behavior and refuses to hold them accountable for it. White people are racist? What's the solution? Black people need to take responsibility for white people's racism. Black people, it's something that black people did. They don't demand that the police be vetted to see if they engage in this racist behavior. If police are operating with an open bias, make sure that they are removed from the police department, because if you can't tell that a kid is a kid, then you are going to be useless when it comes to any sort of testifying at trial. You're going to be useless when it comes to giving a description of anybody if you're too stupid to know the difference between a child and an adult. Instead, when white people are racist, the white media makes it clear black people have to make some changes, not the white people who are being racist. They don't have to change anything. White people are being racist. Well, black folks, what are you going to do to make it where these white folks are going to be perfectly pleased with you? What's the solution to white racism? Well, it's not to punish the white bigots. That's the message that this kind of white propaganda garbage sends. The reason white thugs with badges are racist is all black people's fault. Why, you got even a kid who, as far as he's concerned, well, I know I did something wrong, so I need to let the cops know that that they don't need to be scared of me. The kid doesn't have a gun. He doesn't have pepper spray. He doesn't have a stun gun. He doesn't have a radio, a baton, or a bunch of thugs murdering people, and yet for some strange reason, the white media makes it out that he needs to show the police that he's not a threat. Yeah, the guys with the guns, the guys with the shotguns, the guys with oftentimes assault rifles, the guys who murder children in the streets, they don't need to assure the black community that they're not a threat. Notice how that's never the white media's angle. It's never the white media saying the police need to start assuring the public that they're not a threat. You want to know why? Because even the white media knows what a joke that would be. The police want to make it quite clear that they are indeed a threat. And that's the whole point. The point is that they engage in murder with impunity. With impunity and not even criticism. The white media understands their job is never to say the police have to prove that they're not a threat. You never put the responsibility on the police. And the reason why is, as far as the white media is concerned, the police do not make mistakes when they murder Tamir Rice, when they murder Aiyana Jones. That's not the police making a mistake. That is the police doing exactly what their job is. Their job is to murder black people, especially black children. Their job is to be the enforcement arm of white supremacy, and the first part of their duty is to carry out the genocide, promote the genocide of black people. And you don't go after old black folks because they're not going to do anything anyway. You go after black children. That's what this is meant to do. It's meant to justify and sanitize that. The police and the white media know what the hell the scam is, but you got a lot of black folks out there who are just plain dumb about this. And this kind of behavior is not a victimless crime. It is not harmless whenever you have some black person who does something stupid like this. This is not just silly behavior. This is not unthinking behavior. This is treasonous behavior that puts all of us at risk. Not just black children, but all of us. This paints a bullseye on every black child in America when something of this nature happens. Because what happens is you can use this kind of image to say, well, yeah, the cops just got through killing some more black children, but hey, it's not like black kids are scared of the cops. They know the cops are only killing them for their own good. See, you got some black folks who are in favor of the police killing black people. That's the message that the white majority takes away from it. Wink and a nod. Yeah, see, there's some black folks. They're telling us that it's okay. So the guilt-free genocide, which is what you have so many white supremacists who are very much the majority of the population engaged in, that's what they want. They want their reassurances. Their reassurances that A, they won't be punished for carrying out the genocide, and B, well, black people, they know that we're killing them for their own good. They're in favor of the genocide too, so we ain't got to feel bad about it. That's what's being reinforced through garbage like this. Black people bear the burden for white people's behavior. White people, as usual, aren't responsible for anything they do. Now, this kid is supposed to be in Fort Worth. For those of you who are not familiar with Texas, Fort Worth is less than an hour away from Dallas. It's part of the reason why every time they mention it, they say Dallas-Fort Worth. In Texas terms, 30 or 40 minutes drive, that's practically nothing. You might as well be in the same town. Everything's bigger in Texas, right? Well, this kid's little attention-seeking stunt happened only a few months after Lauren Aarons died. Lauren Aarons, you'll recall, he was the very large white supremacist with all sorts of white supremacist tattoos on him. He was part of a notorious gang of white sheriff deputies in California who called themselves the Linwood Vikings. And this guy, that little gang that he was part of, the Linwood Vikings, they were rumored to be part of all sorts of white supremacist activity. And this kid is less than 45 minutes away from where a suspected white supremacist, in my humble opinion, a proven white supremacist. I think we can take the suspected off of Lauren Aarons. When you run around with all sorts of white supremacist tattoos and you got all sorts of white supremacist affiliations, ain't nothing suspect about it. And this kid and his empty-headed mammy have no idea what kind of fire that they're playing with. What kind of danger that they're attempting to lure black children into. Now, those two may be too dumb to see the scam, but the white media knows what's going on. This is not some photo op for them. This is all about the propaganda of how we're going to carry out a guilt-free genocide. Because ultimately, the guilt-free genocide will go from, well, we need some black people to sanction it and to play stupid and pretend as if it ain't as bad as all that. It's going to go from that eventually to, well, we're just going to be guilt-free about it, period. Black people can object as much as they want. You can have 0 black people who are willing to be crash dummies for white supremacy. And they'll say, well, we've gotten past the need to have you Negroes give a wink and a nod to your own extermination. That's where this is all going to. This is not going to end here. They've got an end game. And the end game is going to be just blatant, open killing black people in the streets if we let it get that far. And what you see with crap like this, having black children being used as props for white supremacist PR stunts, that's all part of the process of walking us down the road toward the eventual open genocide. That's what this is meant to do, another step on that road. If the local pig patrol really wanted to improve community relations, first of all, they need to be the ones going to the community and apologizing for the fact that they have not yet gone after the white supremacists in their midst. But then again, an apology would be weak sauce. People don't need to be fired. People need to be in freaking maximum security prison cells, awaiting their date with the gas chamber. That's where they need to be. They do not need to be on the streets. They don't even need to be in a prison cell. Put these guys on the row. Put them on death row and let them await the actual justice they deserve. Police want extraordinary protection under law? Fine. They can also accept extraordinary punishment under law. If the police want to really improve community relations, then they could start by pointing out and publicizing the racist cops. See, that's something that little Scooter Jr. here didn't bother to ask, while he's busy trying to make friends with the very guys who are looking at him and going, good, when we kill this guy, it'll be some delicious irony. They're looking at him and going, yeah, friend my foot. We're going to use you as a useful idiot, and then we'll get a nice good laugh out of it when we say, man, how ironic. Well, you know, the little kid here, this Blake kid, he grew up to be a black thug, and, well, we tried, but, those black kids, what can you do? It's just the way that these black kids are, even when you try to befriend them. That's what's going to happen to this kid one day. You want to know how you get a Stephon Clark? This is how you get one. You make him over time. You let him engage in all sorts of stupid behavior, encourage this kind of foolishness. That's how you get a Stephon Clark. And this kid, if he keeps doing this kind of garbage, he's going to wind up just like Stephon Clark. He's going to wind up just like that. Stephon Clark thought speaking up for the cops was cute too. And then what happened afterwards? When they killed him, they said, oh, he was a black thug. And they'll do the same thing with this kid when they kill him. The police are going to kill this kid at some point. I've already pointed out to you that you're standing next to the cops. You're not making yourself safer. You're making yourself into the most immediate target. And when they do, the story will be, well, the cops tried to reach out to this Blake kid. Instead of the story being that this Blake kid reached out to the cops, instead it's going to become, well, the cops tried to reach out to this Blake kid. The cops were doing community outreach with the black community in Fort Worth. And here's a picture of him. Some officers were doing some community outreach. Instead of it being he went to the cops and said, oh, I want to be your BFF. Will you friend me on Facebook? Instead of that being the story, it's going to be that the cops were reaching out to him. They're going to go ahead and put that spin on it. And then the story, that will make it easier to say, well, he was an at-risk youth. He came from a single mother home. And, well, those black kids setting themselves up, and they don't even see it because, unfortunately, attention means more to some black people than their own survival. If this kid really wanted to be friends with the police, the first thing he would say is, I want to see your service record. I want to make sure that you don't have any complaints for racial profiling or police brutality. And after we make sure that you haven't done anything wrong personally, then you're going to have to give me the names of 3 white supremacist cops in the department, 3 racists in the department. I'm not friends with any police officer who does not give me the names of racist police officers. That's what the kids should do. If you don't call yourself becoming friends with somebody simply because. But this kid's so freaking silly. And by the way, he did another little Instagram post where he said that while I was at my grandmother's house, I still wanted to keep going with my mom away, and I saw a cop car in the driveway and rung the doorbell, and Officer Bentley introduced me and my friends and brothers to his family. Thanks, Miss Bentley, for taking the pic. Now think about that. Is that not some attention-seeking crap? That is some nonsense. Somebody ought to tell this kid the kind of danger that he's placing himself and his siblings in. And the kind of danger that he's encouraging black children to place themselves in. How many times have black children been shot by the police? When the police show, the first thing that they do is they start deciding to either brutalize or just kill a black child outright. And this kid's saying, walk up to the very thugs with badges. When you have departments that have been wholesale infiltrated and taken over by white supremacists, you can't salvage that situation. The rot is set in the wood. You have to tear it down and start all over again. At no point does this silly kid ask the police to tell him who the racists are. And that's the point. The point is why all white cops are good. All white cops